Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Blender. I am your host, Zee Garcia. We have just returned from Essen Spiel 2015, and it was an amazing event, an amazing experience, full of really wonderful people, just mind-blowing, really. Speaking of amazing people, I want to give a big shout out to Scott Alden. You might know him as Aldi from Board Game Geek. I got to run into him there briefly, got to say hello again. It was a pleasure to see him, to talk to him. And so I want to give a big shout out for supporting us to Aldi and to the users and to the administrators of BoardGameGeek.com. An amazing place for pretty much all your gaming needs. So thank you very much, Aldi. We truly appreciate it. So today we are talking about tall tales and games that tell them. We're going to be talking about epic stories, quirky stories, often forgotten stories, and we're even going to be talking about games that make you tell the story. And so sit back, relax. I hope you enjoy the show, and I'm going to see you in just a little bit, all right? Here we go.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Sam. Thank you for being a friend of the blend, coming back for another Board Game Blender. This week's theme is not really down my alley, not in my wheelhouse, so to speak, not my cup of tea. Don't really like storytelling games and tell tales and the games that tell them. Not what I really enjoy, but I do like games that have a tremendous storyline within them. And as you play the game, you are taking part in that storyline and you are affecting changes in the storyline. So I'd like to talk about 3 games that, in my opinion, really have that feel about them. First one, we talked about this before. A level 7 Omega Protocol. Storyline is that you're being sent to a station that has been given a distress signal, and you and your team of Rangers or Marines are going to go into that station and find out what happened, rescue people, set up security systems, and all this other kind of stuff, whatever the scenario might dictate. But this definitely has a storytelling feel. We've called it cinematic in the past, but in my estimation, at least for right now, that's pretty much on the same level, because the cinematic feel of Level 7 Omega Protocol is that storytelling, that rich storyline that is back behind the mechanics of the game. And that's what's driving, that's the engine that makes all the mechanics worthwhile. And they make sense. So Level 7 Omega Protocol, huge storyline, great immersive talent here. The next one I'd like to take a look at is this one right here, one that hasn't got a whole lot of buzz. But this is a game that is set within biblical Israel, and it talks about, actually it's kind of like Pandemic, where you're trying to stop the spread of sin within the nation of Israel, and each of the different kings of Israel will have a different effect upon each round as you go through it. And it just, the storyline that is there in the Old Testament just permeates the entire game, and that's one of the themes, one of the storyline games that I have that I really do enjoy. So that's Kings of Israel. And then finally, a game that I haven't talked about in a very long time, although I have sung its praises over and over and over again, and that is Fire and Axe, a Viking saga. Now, it doesn't really feel very Viking-y or Viking-ish, or whatever you want to call it. As you're actually playing the game, the mechanics do not lend themselves to that. But the history that's behind this game and the historical content that is there, and if you are able to tap into that, this has a very cool storyline to it, and it has that storytelling feeling, because you can kind of put yourselves in the shoes of those Vikings as they made those long voyages across unknown oceans, really. I mean, they had an idea of what they were doing and they had a gut, but it wasn't really set in stone. So that story aspect, that storyline that's there behind the Vikings and the different voyages that they took, and really comes to light with Fire and Axe, a Viking Saga. It's getting a reprint here pretty quick, so I can't wait for that to come out to give it another whirl, because they supposedly made some small changes to it, so I'm looking forward to that. So this is another game that is a very cool game that has a pretty rich storyline to it. On that note, I wanted to take a moment and thank that person, whoever you might be, in Essen, that gave this book to Tom to give to me. I'm going to have fun reading this, The Vikings, Lords of the Sea. It's a informational, educational book about Vikings. I'm going to read it. I'm going to enjoy reading it. Thank you so much. Kudos to you for thinking of me, and I'm going to honor that with reading this book. That's about all I got. And listen, y'all, storytelling games are boring. I'm just trying to keep it real. See you on the flip side.
Hello, friends of the Blend. When I found out the title of today's show, Tall Tales and Games That Tell Them, it got me thinking, who tells the tallest tales ever? Well, lawyers do. I got a game here for you. It's called LA Law, published in 1988 by Galoob. This is a 3 to 10 player game in which you play lawyers trying to win your court cases. One fun fact, this gentleman right here, this is a young Jimmy Smits. You might remember him playing Senator Bail Organa in the Star Wars prequels. Sadly, they cut most of his parts out. But later, he was on a hit TV show, Sons of Anarchy, playing businessman Nero Padilla. Way to go, Jimmy! Well, that's a whole nother topic. Let's get on to the game. To start the game, everybody will pick a character. Every character has different cases. There's over 150 different cases in this game. Now, to start the game, you will pick a case, you will read the facts on the case, and you will decide whether you think that it's going to be a guilty verdict or an innocent verdict. You won't know the answer because it's down here in red, and you need this special piece to do it, to show the answer. Now, then you start arguing the cases of the game. After you're done with your argument, the opposing lawyer will make his case, and then players decide whether it's right or whether it's wrong. And then after all that's done, you will take this piece, and then you will find out the right answer. Scoring happens as follows. 2 points goes to the attorney who presented the arguments that won the case. 1 point will go to every player who voted for that verdict. And half a point will go to the attorney who presented the arguments that lost the case, but each player voted for it. After everybody has had a chance to be the lead attorney and the opposing attorney, you will tally up all the scores. Person with the highest wins the game. Remember, in this game, it's okay to embellish the facts. Add relevant information, add irrelevant information. Play off of other people's emotions, their past behaviors, even their opinions. And it's okay to bully people also. Remember, all's fair in law and order. Well, that's all the time I have for now. May your rolls be high.
Amber Root is a journey into Slavic beliefs, monsters, myths, and legends. And in it, you are going to be traveling and attempting to take your caravan through the lands and avoid traps, avoid monsters, use the help of mythological creatures and such in your journeys. The game is a very simple dice-driven game. in which you are going to be collecting amber, real amber by the way, which comes with the game in this nice little pouch here, and using your guards to help you defeat and move across traps and monsters and such. The game is a very simple game, but it's a little bit tricky to understand at first because it actually, each of those types of encounters, the monsters, the traps, are kind of different from each other in a considerable way. And so it's a little bit tricky to grasp it at first, but the gameplay itself, the movement, the collecting and using up of resources are pretty straightforward. And I do like the look of the game a lot. I think it's a very attractive looking game. It's a very strange looking game. It has a weird vibe to it that makes it seem unique and foreign, and this sort of found game that came from the bowels of some place. You know, it's a very strange looking game. There is in fact a game for Android. I'm not sure if it's out for iOS, but I know it exists for Android, which is called Amber Root and looks just like this game, but the games are actually slightly different games. I'm not sure which came first, if this is based on that game and then they tweaked it so it would work as a tabletop game, or if that is an interpretation of this game and again they tweaked it. But that's a really neat game. If you kind of want to get a feel for how this sort of game works, then I recommend you check out that Android app called the same thing, Amber Root, but be aware the games are not the same. This one is has a little bit more interaction and the math isn't quite as high and as convoluted as the one in the app because, well, the app takes care of that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. This one's much more straightforward. You're rolling dice, you're fighting, you are moving across the land, and you are hoping to get to the end first, get the most victory points, basically. So if you can find this game, then I recommend you check it out. It's just quirky and strange enough that I think you're going to get a kick out of that, but it's very usable, and it's a fun tale if you sort of tell it, if you live it up, and every time you flip over a monster and encounter it, you get into that theme, you know, that Slavic mythological theme. So for the quirky game of the episode, Amber Root. Check this one out. Try to get your hands on it. It's a strange little creation.
Hi there, I'm Ilya and here's Alina. Today we're going to talk about kolejka. Kolejka means in Polish queue, and this game talks about nostalgic times of USSR where there are not enough goods, not enough food, clothes, and people are standing in long queues trying to get at least something.
Every player represents a family, and each family has a shopping list that they need to accomplish. But the problem is that you never know which shop will have merchandise. So you can freely end up staying 3 days in queue to get, let's say, a couch that you actually don't need, which you will go to black market to exchange with the speculants for something you actually do need.
Ну неси покушать, а! Давай, 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 быстрее!
На, кушай.
Что это такое? Опять сыр? Опять булка? Слушай, я мужик, я мясо хочу.
Ну возле магазина, Машенька, товар завезли. Народ стоял. Бери ребенка, иди в очередь.
Опять эта очередь, опять ребенок. Чего ты же куда-то идти вообще, не знаю. Я хочу, ты сама... Да я пойду уже, не знаю, пойду и сам все сделаю. Да, достал уже все. Many people love worker placement games, and here it's made in sort of a unique way as, I call it queue mechanic, as you're trying to put your people in a queue, and then only those who are in the front of the queue will get the item. And here you have the cards also. The cards are quite nasty. They can ruin your opponent's plans and help you out. For example, there's a card that you are a mother with a child, so you will move in front of the queue, or I will put the card on the opponent as he was criticizing the authorities, he must move back in a queue, and so on. There are very many different thematic ways to screw with your opponent and help you out, but with these cards.
There's lots of historical games in the market, but they're all about what?
War.
Well, this one is different. It tells us about specific situation in Soviet time. The Kolejka tells you the story about people's everyday life, and you actually get the feeling that you are short of goods and you desperately need something, and you're pushing in queue to get it for, I don't know, 3 or 5 days. And you get the feeling that you need something, but it's just not enough. Just not enough.
Kolejka is in our collection for different reasons, because we have different tastes. But for me, it's not like a great game that I would like to play every day, but it's really thematic and it feels different from what I normally play. I play lots of different games, but this one feels so unique, so different.
Kolejka is a perfect gateway game as it represents worker placement mechanic in a really easy and fun way. The cue cards, the artwork on them and on the board is really fun, and it's also historically correct, and it's so highly thematic, and it's incredibly fun.
Overall, we like this game.
We love it.
Because it tells us a story. But no more talking, I need to get in the queue. Ciao. Queues in Essen. What's the difference with the Soviet Union?
Welcome to Boards and Crafts, a place for quick tutorials, snacks and crafts inspired from games, for games, and all about board games. This week we are talking about tall tales and games that tell them. One of the games that I really enjoy playing that has a unique way of telling stories is Gloom. This game is all about having your own eccentric family die miserably while having your competitors' families live a happier life. This game is all about telling the tales of your characters, so this week I have a craft that's inspired by this to tell your own gloomy story. Here's what you'll need for this project: a picture frame, a printout of a blank Gloom character card that's the size of the frame that you got. I ended up using an 8x10 frame. A printout of the picture that you want to put under the blank Gloom character card, scissors or an X-Acto knife, tape for safe measure, and a dry erase marker. Usually a bright colored thick marker seems to work the best. So the first thing that you'll have to do is trim the sides of the character card sheet if needed and cut out the center with the X-Acto knife. Next you need to line up your photo and tape it down. Stick it in the frame, then fill out your card. You can write your name, title, house symbol, and your favorite quote. This craft is great to add to your Halloween decorations or to your game room. If you guys have any ideas for tasty treats or creative crafts, comment below or tweet them at me at RTRobot. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you on the next blend.
Hey, for today's Under the Radar segment, I want to highlight Dark Tales. This is a simple card game from Italy in which you are going to be playing cards in front of you, playing cards to a common pool. It's very simply a take that game, and the game really just comes with a pile of cards here and a pile of tokens, and that's pretty much the contents of the game. But what I like about it is that the artwork, for one, is spectacular. I mean, look at these cards. It is a stunning looking game, and I just adore the look of it. It's very congruent. Everything seems like it fits in the same world. Just mind-blowing artwork. And I also really like that the take that in the game has some meaning, has some purpose, because you are, at the beginning of the game, going to set up some special cards which tell you how you score, not just throughout the game, but at the end of the game as well. And I like that the game just seems a little more structured and has a little more purpose than most take-that games that are out there. This is a take-that game that I can get behind. I really enjoy it. Now, one thing that I think really drives the tall tale aspect of the game is that this game kind of takes fairy tales and twists them and makes them, well, dark, right, tales. But I like that what the game's been doing, and that is releasing expansions that are based specifically on fairy tales. They've already come out with a couple, and they are Snow White, as you can see here, and Little Red Riding Hood, And so both of these are out, and the way it works is you are going to be using all the cards from the base set, but each of these is going to give you more cards tied into that story. So a Little Red Riding Hood, the Big Bad Wolf, the Grandma, or if you're doing Snow White, then Snow White, Poisoned Apple, the Mirror, things like that. You're going to shuffle those into the deck. You are going to have some special interactions with the cards, and you're going to play the game, but now with a slight hint of a flavor of Snow White or Little Red Riding Hood. And I really like that. I think it's a cool way to kind of give the game new life, to give it replayability, and I think that the company doing the game is doing it just right. I like it a lot. It's a really neat game. So, if you're looking for a Take That game that has a really good look, it's very clear to understand, really nice package overall, then I gotta recommend you check this one out. Dark Tales, folks. Really good stuff. I am a big fan of this one. So there you go. Check out the expansions as well, and I'll see you next time. Dark Tales. Boop, 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 boop. Hey everybody, for today's face-off we are taking a look at two giants in the storytelling party game category, and those games are But Wait There's More in the orange corner, and in the blue corner Snake Oil. Both of these games you are basically making a pitch and seeing if you have the best pitch among all the players. We are going to, using my own wild and goofy bias, take a look at both of these games and see which one comes out on top in this face-off. Here we go. First up, we're going to be talking about ease of play, but before we do that, let me tell you what each of these games is basically about. In But Wait There's More, each player is sort of a TV station pitching an item, and you are all pitching the same item, and you have cards in your hand which modify that thing and let you make it your own while you're making that pitch. In Snake Oil, the thing that is constant is the customer, so say a caveman. And you have cards in your hand that you combine, and then you are pitching something, a different thing, to that caveman, that cowboy, that whatever the customer is. And then at the end of the game, they each have a scoring system. At the end of the game, whoever has the most points is the winner. So ease of play. I find Snake Oil to be a little easier to play because it's a little more free form, it's a little more liberating, being able to pitch whatever item you want to. You just need to concern yourself with the character you're pitching it to, and the scoring in it is much simpler. But Wait There's More is ultimately a better game, as in the scoring is tighter, but I think Snake Oil makes for a better experience as a party game. So, ease of play goes to Snake Oil. Next up, replayability. I happen to think that Snake Oil has more replayability than But Wait There's More, simply because this one is based around the items, and once you've seen nail clippers, there is, yeah, you can do weird things with nail clippers, but it's still nail clippers. Once you see that come up again next time, you will not have as much freedom, it seems to me. In this one, the same aspect, you know, as the customers, right? That's the relation in this to this. This is items, this is customers. However, the cards in your hand dictate any item. It does not matter if it's a caveman or whatever. You can sell a caveman just about anything. So I happen to think this has more replayability in the long run. And as I said before, it's a simpler teach. So this one gets the replayability nod. Snake Oil. Next up is Laughs, a category that's needed in every party game comparison. And in this one, I would say these games are about tied for laughs, delivery of laughs, except if you are playing with a group of adults. If you're playing like a late night, sort of rowdier, more adult-themed session, then I would have to lean towards, but wait, there's more. I think the cards in this one lend themselves to that group a little bit better than the just face value of snake oil. In this one, you kind of have to go looking for that a little bit more. And so if you're playing with a group of adults, I'm leaning towards, but wait, there's more. Otherwise, this is a bit of a tie. Let's keep going. Player involvement is up next. Another category that I think is very important when you're talking about party games. You want to keep people engaged. You want to keep the party atmosphere going. And while both of these games are basically storytelling games, pitch games, you're pitching something, and that, by its very nature, means that some people are waiting to make their pitch and listening to the other people. I think snake oil is actually a little slower than But Wait, There's More, simply because But Wait, There's More keeps the other players engaged. During the speaking player's turn, you can play a card that makes that player kind of double down with their pitch in But Wait, There's More. And it is no one's turn as a judge. You're sort of acting all as judges all the time. Whereas in Snake Oil, one player is the judge, and so they're kind of sitting that round out. And that slows down the game for that one player. So, if you want to make sure you get the most interaction possible all at the same time, you want the least amount of downtime possible, But Wait, There's More is your game. And finally, we come to the overall best game. I'm going to give the nod here to Snake Oil. I like this pitching storytelling game better than But Wait, There's More. I simply find But Wait, There's More to be a narrower game. I think the theme makes it a little narrower. I think everybody around the table selling the same item one after the other makes it less interesting. Then in this one, you just have the character, and what you're pitching is going to be a surprise as you move around the table. I like that better. I think it makes for a funnier game, a better time overall. So, if you're looking for a game in which you are pitching stuff to someone else and you just want to have some laughs, I gotta go with Snake Oil. See you next time, folks.
Hello folks, welcome to Corner Chat. Today I'm here with Jerry Hawthorne from Plaid Hat Games, and we're actually here on site at Plaid Hat Games. How exciting is that? Today we're talking about tall tales and epic journeys in games, and I can't think of a better game. No other game comes to mind like Mice and Mystics does for that kind of topic. It's one of my daughter's favorite games, and we just have a ball with it, a blast. It's just fantastic. So, when you came up with the whole story idea around this, what was your inspiration? How did you get there?
Well, it's funny you bring up your daughter. My daughter was my inspiration for the story of Mice and Mystics. She was all into mice when she was little, and she was struggling to learn how to read. And I thought that if I created a little game to break up the reading into little chunks so that we would have an activity that would keep her interested, I thought that might work. And naturally, since she loved mice, I decided to write a story about mice. And because I love fantasy things, I decided to make it a fantasy
tale.
Yeah.
How did you get to that story point? I mean, was there several variations, and how did that evolve?
It evolved pretty quickly and naturally. I wanted to have a story that had various characters involved that sort of emulated the kind of experience that you would have within a family, where everybody has their. Everybody is a unique individual of a family, but you all work together to accomplish your daily tasks and take on your family challenges. So I thought that if I had a group of characters that would emulate a family, that would work out pretty good.
That's awesome. So speaking of characters, how did the characters evolve from the story? Did you have characters in mind before or after? And how did that come about?
I just tried to basically stick with your fantasy RPG archetypes, and then I sort of superimposed personality traits from family members and friends, and just kind of made a little blend of that.
Great. Well, so I have to ask, of course, who's your favorite character?
Hands down, I've been asked this many times. My favorite character is Tilda. I think that she emulates a set of virtues that I admire, and so she's my favorite character.
Yep, my daughter's favorite as well. So that's great. All right, so your newest release is coming up, Tail Feathers. How does this fit into the story?
Okay, so you know that the story about Mice and Mystics are about a group of human beings that have been changed into mice, and they go through these adventures. They're stuck in mouse form. They still haven't figured out the key to getting transformed back into human form, and they sort of get swept up into these great adventures in the mouse kingdom. And they're becoming more and more integrated with the mouse world, and finding areas where their unique set of skills are useful to the mouse world. And meanwhile, the real work keeps trudging along, but there's a big impending evil coming along, and some of it has to do with the fact that they left the throne empty. The heir to the throne is in mouse form, and the elven kingdom that borders the human kingdom, they need the human king back on the throne. Wow. And so in a desperate move, they transform their best dragon rider and his dragon into a mouse and a bluebird.
Very cool.
And they send him out looking for Colin, who is in mouse form, the heir to the throne. They send him out into the forest looking for Colin because they know that he's been changed into a mouse. So they just don't know how to find him. And so that's where it begins. The dragon rider Zur and his trusty steed are right here, and they're characters that you can play in the game, and they've been sent to find Colin.
Nice.
But when they arrive in the forest, they arrive to a scene of mayhem. The northern part of the forest is being attacked by rats who've teamed up with these bad birds, and so they can control the open areas. They have air superiority, and they're raiding the mouse villages. Along comes Zur and Erigin, and so they teach the mice how to ride birds and how to defend their territories while they're waiting on a group of scouts that are sent to find King Colin.
That's awesome. So it all ties together, which is really great. Do you have any other plans for Mice and Mystics things that you're considering? Sure.
Yeah. Ideally, what we would like to do is complete the story by having it get to the point where Colin eventually solves the puzzle on how to become human again. Oh, yeah. And so that's the final goal that we want to get to. This chapter of the story just kind of comes along. And when I was writing it and working on it and everything, I realized it was just growing into bigger and more things than you can do with just the Mice and Mystics game system. So I decided to make this other little spin-off game so that we could recreate all the battles and stuff that are happening in the forest.
Oh, that's fantastic. When is Telltales going to be available?
We're going to debut it at Essen Spiel in Germany.
All right.
And we'll have copies there for sale, and then it should be available for all the pre-orders that are coming in. They should be getting those about a month later, and then shortly after that, it'll be available for retail.
Great.
So before Christmas.
Definitely look forward to it. That's great. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And folks, thanks for joining us as well. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up episode 17 of Board Game Blender. A big thanks again to all my contributors who are amazing. A big thank you to you for watching and supporting us. Big thank you to Aldi and everybody over at BGG. And please, come on back in a couple of weeks where we're going to be putting on our Halloween show. Halloween! The strange and the haunting. Come on back for that. Do not be scared. And as always, my children, stay a friend of the blend. As I really shouldn't do that.